For more than 30 years, many Gen X Black women have been expected to work twice as hard, stay strong through everything, and remain available to everyone, so choosing to stay home can look like isolation from the outside. But what if she isn't hiding from life? What if home is the only place where she doesn't have to perform, explain herself, manage other people's emotions, or prove she belongs? Stay with me, because the deepest reason some Gen X Black women protect their private world isn't laziness or loneliness, it's a psychological survival skill they spent decades building. Gen X Black women, where in America are you watching from? On a quiet Sunday morning, before the neighborhood fully wakes, a particular kind of peace settles over her home. Sade is playing softly from an old speaker. Coffee is warming her hands. The curtains are half open, the phone is face down, and for once, nobody is asking her to solve a problem. She does not have to dress for anyone. She does not have to smile on command, soften her opinions, explain her silence, or prove that she belongs. There is no performance here, no armor, no invisible audience measuring whether she is pleasant enough, helpful enough, or strong enough. To someone outside, this life may look too quiet. They may call her withdrawn, antisocial, lazy, or even depressed. They may wonder why she turns down invitations, leaves gatherings early, or protects her weekends as though they are sacred. But they are misunderstanding what they see. She is not running away from life. She is moving toward a life that no longer requires her to abandon herself. For many Gen X Black women, loving home is not simply a personality preference. It can be the psychological result of spending decades in a world that demanded their energy while rarely asking what that demand was costing them. They came of age during an era that praised endurance. You worked hard, handled your business, kept family matters private, and did not fall apart in public. For Black women, that message often came with another layer. Be strong, be dependable, carry more than your share, and never let anyone see you struggling. Psychologists describe part of this pressure through what is called the strong Black woman schema. It can include expectations of emotional control, self-reliance, caregiving, and strength through hardship. Those qualities can build competence, courage, and extraordinary resilience. But when strength becomes the only identity she is allowed to have, it can also become a cage. Because the woman everyone calls strong is often the last woman anyone thinks to protect. She becomes the one who remembers birthdays, checks on aging parents, supports adult children, trains the new employee, calms the conflict, helps the friend in crisis, and still arrives looking composed. People admire how much she can carry, then quietly add more weight. After enough years, her nervous system begins to tell the truth her mouth was trained to hide. It says, "I do not want one more crowded room where I must read everyone's mood. I do not want another gathering where I have to laugh when I am tired. I do not want to spend 3 hours preparing for an event that will take 2 days to recover from." So she stays home. Not because she hates people, but because she has stopped volunteering her body as a public resource. That distinction matters. The desire to be at home is often labeled introversion, but introversion does not tell the whole story. Some women who love staying home are warm, social, expressive, and deeply connected. They can enjoy people and still recognize that social contact has a cost. The question is not always, do I like being around others? Sometimes it is, how much emotional labor will this environment require from me? For a Black woman, walking into public space may involve calculations other people never notice. Will her confidence be misread as aggression? Will her quietness be treated as an attitude? Will someone question her competence, overlook her contribution, or expect her to explain a hurtful moment while pretending it was harmless? Research on racial and gendered microaggressions has connected these repeated experiences with psychological distress, rumination, sleep disruption, and chronic stress. The injury is not always one dramatic event. Often, it is the accumulation of small moments requiring her to swallow a reaction, correct a stereotype, or decide whether speaking up will create an even larger burden. That means a simple afternoon outside may demand constant emotional editing. At home, the editing stops. She can speak without translating herself. She can be silent without being punished for it. She can wear her natural expression without someone asking what is wrong. She can move at the speed of her own body rather than the speed of everybody else's expectations. This is where internal self-presence begins to matter. It is not a diagnosis. It is a way of describing the ability to feel fully present in one's own company. A woman with a rich internal life does not need constant noise to confirm that she is alive. She can find meaning in music, memory, prayer, reading, cooking, decorating, gardening, journaling, or simply sitting long enough to hear what she actually feels. The world often confuses stimulation with fulfillment. It assumes that a full calendar means a full life. But many women discover in midlife that constant activity can hide emotional emptiness just as easily as silence can reveal emotional depth. Research on solitude makes an important distinction. Time alone is not automatically harmful or healing. The difference often lies in whether it is chosen. Unwanted isolation can deepen loneliness. Self-determined solitude, however, can help regulate emotion, quiet high arousal feelings, and restore autonomy. That is why her home can feel less like a hiding place and more like a nervous system sanctuary. Outside, she may remain alert without realizing it. Her shoulders stay slightly raised, her breathing becomes shallow, her attention scans faces, tones, and possible problems. This is the body's protective machinery doing what it learned to do. Inside a familiar environment, the body receives different signals. The door is locked, the lights are soft, the sounds are predictable. She chooses who enters, what plays, what she eats, and when she rests. The parasympathetic branch of the nervous system, the system associated with rest, digestion, and recovery, has more opportunity to come forward after stress. A house does not magically heal every wound. But safety gives healing somewhere to begin, and perhaps that is what outsiders miss most. She is not obsessed with four walls. She is attached to the rare experience of not being watched, managed, interpreted, or needed. Her love of home is often a love of sovereignty, but sovereignty usually has a history. Sometimes, behind the peaceful Sunday music and carefully chosen candle, there is another story. A friendship that broke after years of one-sided loyalty, a betrayal she never publicly explained, a workplace where she made herself smaller so others would not feel threatened, a family role that required her to be endlessly available while her own needs were treated like an inconvenience. The home became sacred not only because it was comfortable, but because somewhere along the way, the outside world taught her that access to her should no longer be automatic. And once she understands that access to her is a privilege, not a public entitlement, something inside her changes. She becomes more selective. Not cold, not bitter, selective. There is a difference. She may still love people deeply. She may answer the phone when her daughter needs advice, bring food to a grieving friend, remember the details everyone else forgets, and pray for people who never even know they were being carried in her thoughts. But she no longer gives everyone unlimited entry into her emotional world. She has learned that peace can disappear quickly when the wrong person is given too much access. Some people enter a room and bring calm, others bring confusion, competition, gossip, hidden resentment, or the unspoken expectation that she will become the emotional caretaker again. So she watches carefully. She notices how her body feels after a conversation. She pays attention to whether she feels expanded or depleted, understood or managed, safe or slightly on guard. That awareness is not paranoia. It is emotional intelligence developed through experience. For years, she may have ignored those signals because she was taught that being a good woman meant being accommodating. She was expected to forgive quickly, remain available, avoid appearing difficult, and preserve relationships even when those relationships repeatedly wounded her. But maturity changes the question. She no longer asks, "Will they be upset if I say no?" She asks, "What will happen to me if I keep saying yes?" That is a psychological turning point. It is the moment a woman begins to recognize that protecting her energy is not selfishness, it is self-respect. And the home becomes the place where that self-respect takes physical form. The closed door becomes a boundary, the quiet room becomes permission. The slow morning becomes a declaration that her life does not always have to be useful to someone else. This is why she may care deeply about the feeling of her space, the blanket folded across the sofa, the family photographs, the music that brings back a version of herself she thought she had lost, the familiar cup, the favorite chair, the scent of food that reminds her of women who came before her. These details are not meaningless decorations. They are emotional anchors. Environmental psychology has long recognized that familiar and personally meaningful surroundings can strengthen a sense of identity, control, and security. A home can become a container for memory. It can remind a person who she is when the outside world keeps trying to define her through roles. Employee, mother, partner, daughter, caretaker, problem solver, strong one. At home, she can exist before all those titles. She can simply be herself, and sometimes that is the only place where she is allowed to stop being impressive. There is a quiet grief in that realization, because many Gen X Black women were praised most when they were enduring something. People admired their strength during divorce, loss, financial pressure, workplace discrimination, illness in the family, or years of raising children while holding everything else together. But praise for endurance can become dangerous when it convinces everyone that pain is her natural environment. She does not want to be celebrated only for surviving. She wants a life that does not require constant survival. That may be one of the deepest reasons she loves staying home. Home is where her body can finally stop preparing for the next demand. It is where she can nap without guilt, eat without rushing, laugh loudly at an old television show, cry without explaining the tears, or sit in complete silence without feeling responsible for filling it. And in that silence, she begins to hear herself again. At first, what she hears may be uncomfortable. Exhaustion she had normalized, anger she had buried, disappointment she had renamed as maturity, dreams she postponed because someone else always needed something first. Solitude does not only soothe, sometimes it reveals. When the noise disappears, the truth becomes harder to avoid. She may realize that she has been loyal to relationships that stopped being reciprocal years ago. She may notice how often she says she is fine before checking whether she actually is. She may understand that much of her busyness was not purpose, but protection from feelings she had no safe place to process. That is why chosen solitude can become transformational. It creates space between experience and reaction. Instead of immediately responding to everyone else, she has time to ask what she thinks, what she needs, and what she is no longer willing to tolerate. This does not mean every woman who stays home is healed. Home can become avoidance when fear controls every decision. It can become isolation when connection feels impossible rather than intentional. Depression can also make people withdraw from activities and relationships they once enjoyed. The difference is not simply whether she goes out. The difference is what happens inside her while she stays in. Does her time at home restore her? Does it make her feel more grounded, creative, and emotionally available? Does she still maintain meaningful relationships, even if her circle is small? Does she choose solitude because it nourishes her, or because fear has convinced her that nowhere else can ever be safe? Those questions matter. Healthy solitude does not shrink life. It strengthens the person who returns to it. A woman who truly enjoys her own company can still travel, connect, celebrate, love, and participate in the world. She simply refuses to participate at the cost of herself. She does not need to attend every event to prove she has a life. She does not need hundreds of people around her to prove she is loved. She does not need constant invitations to confirm her value. Her life may look quiet from the outside, but internally, it can be full of memory, imagination, reflection, humor, faith, creativity, and emotional depth. Psychologists often separate loneliness from solitude because the two are not the same experience. Loneliness is the painful feeling that the connection you need is missing. Solitude is the intentional experience of being alone without feeling abandoned. One is deprivation, the other can be freedom. And the ability to sit with yourself without immediately reaching for distraction, approval, or noise is a form of self-companionship. Self-companionship means your own presence does not feel like an empty room. You know how to comfort yourself without always escaping yourself. You know how to enjoy a meal without needing an audience. You know how to make an ordinary evening feel meaningful. You know that silence is not evidence that you have been forgotten. For a woman who spent decades being present for everyone else, learning to become present for herself can feel revolutionary. It may look small, turning off the phone, declining an invitation, cooking something slowly, playing an album from beginning to end, sitting near the window while the afternoon passes. But these moments are teaching her nervous system a new truth. You are allowed to exist without performing. You are allowed to rest before you collapse. You are allowed to enjoy your life even when nobody is watching. You are allowed to protect what took you years to rebuild. So no, she is not strange because she loves staying home. She is not lazy because she no longer wants every weekend filled. She is not antisocial because she prefers a few honest relationships over a room full of shallow ones. She is not wasting her life. She is creating a life that does not constantly drain the person living it. And maybe her home is not simply a place. Maybe it is the first environment she has built where her softness is not punished, her silence is not misinterpreted, and her strength is no longer exploited. So let the music play softly. Let the coffee cool slowly. Let the phone remain unanswered for a little while. Let her laugh, rest, think, pray, create, and breathe without apology. The world has had access to her labor, her wisdom, her patience, and her strength for decades. She is allowed to keep something for herself. And if you are a Gen X Black woman who finds more peace at home than in the noise outside, tell us in the comments, what does being at home give you that the world takes away? Your answer may help another woman realize that she is not withdrawing from life. She may simply be returning to herself, and if this message made you feel seen, subscribe and stay close. This is a space where your quiet choices, your hidden exhaustion, and your hard-earned peace will never need to be explained.